Shane and Chris here from the Right Spotters, coming back at you with all the writing expertise you need to make it as a writer. Today, we're basically talking about article pitches, but it'd be more like basically just getting a foot in the door. So it's been a long time since I've gotten a foot in the door, so to speak. So we're going to talk about a little bit about networking and then a little bit about the nuts and bolts of article pitches. So Chris, we'll start off with the nuts and bolts today, and then I'll get into how to build your network to actually get published.
Okay, that sounds good. Morning, everyone. So basically, when you decide that you're going to add written articles to your business arsenal, you're going to start getting paid to write, you need to find your way to a specific outlet, usually a specific website, that will pay you to write. Like you want to get paid, so figure out who's going to pay you and why. A lot of times that will involve submitting a pitch, which is essentially asking the site, hey, I want to write about this. Will you pay me to write this article? There's a lot that goes into it. You need to know, obviously, the site that you're looking at, their requirements, their voice, their style, their readership. Like if you are a fat loss specialist and helping clients burn fat is what you do. You have your 8-week program, you have whatever. You have body transformation testimonials. Then it might not make that much sense to try to get published on a site that focuses more on performance, like an Elite FTS or a Box Life or something that's more athletic focused. You would want to look more towards websites that promote body composition change, like T-Nation, like bodybuilding.com, like whatever is around, muscle and fitness. So you want to try to be featured in a way that highlights your expertise the most. The first step is know where you want to end up.
That's like a big picture. We're talking like big picture approach to the pitch. So you're just going to finding the right person, the right person to pitch to, right website.
Right. Yes. Well, finding the right person would be the next step, because most websites, the majority of websites, if you look around their site, you'll find, so you want to write for us, or contact us, or editorial guidelines. So Don't just contact an author at the site. That will actually, we'll get into that later, because that would be a way of networking. But your best bet is to contact the editors or the people that the website says, if you want to write here, these are the steps. Most websites have that.
The question, Chris, so, there's all different types of editors, right? There's a manager editor, fitness editor, health and wellness editor. So which one should you contact? Which one should you be reaching out to?
Anyone with editor in the title should be able to help you or point you in the right direction. Like if there's an editor-in-chief, you might not want to contact them directly because they're pretty busy running the whole site. So they might not be able to reply. It might be a best bet to either look for an associate editor or a managing editor or somebody like that.
That's the one.
But again, check the site guidelines first. They might have a specific email. It might be info@workouts.com if you want to write here. So that's the email you use. Do what they say. Don't try to skirt the rules, because they have those rules set up for a reason. That's how they're set up. That's how they will get back to you. I've gotten a lot of cold pitches, cold emails, people just emailing me to my personal email address, which I guess you could find, whatever. Not advised. But not my work email. My personal email, I'll get emails, hey, I read that article that you wrote on whatever site, and I really liked it, and I want to write too, and do you think I could do that? And a lot of times I consider it like spammy.
But that's a bad first impression with somebody.
That's a very bad first impression, right? Because I didn't invite you in. Don't do that. Don't do
personal stuff. Yeah.
Right. That's like finding someone on Facebook that you want to work with and just sending them a message. It's like there's no reason. That's not the right channels.
So don't be spammy.
Correct. Don't follow the rules. Don't come off like don't put me on my back foot right off the bat. If you want to write for Breaking Muscle, I know, if you did want to write for Breaking Muscle, there was a whole page that said editorial guidelines, want to contact us, email us here. So if you didn't follow those rules, you're showing me right off the bat, you can't follow rules. So that's not a good impression. So you're not letting me know that you're smart enough to do what I'm asking you right off the bat. So
don't be spammy and follow the rules.
that's it. Yes. So you contact who they tell you to contact. If they happen to not have guidelines on their site, or if you can't find them, then you can start skirting around and trying to figure out an editor at the site, ideally, as I would say almost as like a not necessarily a last ditch, but another secondary option would be contacting a writer who has been published there recently, preferably, because not all writers maintain active publications at sites. So if you find a writer who wrote 3 years ago, they might not know who's in charge now. So somebody who wrote on the site recently, get in touch with them, and that's where you start branching out your network. Would that make sense, Shane?
Writing for a high-profile website like Muscle and Fitness, what you just described happens to me a lot. Yeah, it's like,
because
dude, I'm just a freelance writer. What are you asking me for?
Well, because I think they're trying to like have you give them a boost or point them in the right direction, but not all writers will be able to do that because they might just not know the right resource to send you to. They might not know the head editor's email because they only deal with an associate editor or something like that. So if you want to get into writing, you got to find out a way to contact the site directly. And from there, then you figure out what you want to write, because the first article on a site itself helps to kind of like stamp your mark and say, I'm here, this is what I do. Like, hope you enjoy. Like, do you remember any of the first articles that you got up on any of the sites that you've worked with? Does anything pop out? It's been a while.
Yes. My first paid article on Barband was on the vestibular system.
Okay.
Basically the balance. I didn't pitch Barband. This is so funny. All I did was reach out to one of the editors on Twitter, and he said, who have you written for? And I said, I've written for Tony Jenical, and then boom, that was it. So that's just unicorn type stuff. That just doesn't happen, right? So that's basically I got my foot in the door via Twitter. True story.
I mean, then that paid off. That was a little while ago, so it's a little different landscape now.
That was about 5-6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a different landscape now.
Oh God, yes.
But you had that basically that credibility. You had something to answer when he said, "Where have you written before?" You didn't say, "I haven't." You could have said, "I've got my blog. I've got 10 years worth of my blog," but you had a guest post. You had that guest post on Jenicor's blog, which can be a huge resource. It can be a huge way to show yourself to an audience and showcase to editors, look, somebody else wanted me to write for them, so you should too, right?
Yeah, it's true. I know we're talking about pictures right now, but I think guest posts are great too.
I think we can dive into that in 1 second. Yeah. But I think after you know where you want to be showcased, you need to know what you're going to write about. So a lot of that goes into doing research. Don't be scared of the word research, just reading. Like, read the site, get familiar with the site, know their tone of voice, know the kind of topics they cover. Again, if a website is focused on CrossFit training, it might not be that apt to publish a 8-week fat loss program, because that's not that big a priority for CrossFit athletes. If you want to focus on, if you know how to train a kipping pull-up, you have an opinion on the kipping pull-up, then that might be more of an appropriate article. Another thing you need to really pay attention with regarding pitches that I think really gets overlooked and tripped up a lot of writers is timelines, because articles don't go up as soon as you send them. If you submit an article, however long it takes you to write it, you send that email to the editor after it's been agreed and they say, yes, we'll pay you to write, or before they agree. When you're pitching an article, there's going to be some leeway, some gap time between when you send it and then they receive it, and then they have to edit it and work on it and format it, and then it gets posted. It could be a month later, could be 6 weeks later. It could be 2 months later, depending on their backlog and just their timeline, their calendar. So if it's the middle of August and you submit a beach body workout, that's not going to get posted until middle of September at best. So you missed your window. So it doesn't make sense to pitch that kind of article at that time. I know I wrote it's like a Thanksgiving nutrition tips, don't ruin your diet this Thanksgiving. I want to say I wrote that in like September-ish, and it was published by Thanksgiving, November. So that was like 6 or 8 weeks planning ahead. That's what the majority of sites do. They plan their calendar quite a ways out. So you need to factor that in with anything that could be remotely time sensitive. You can always like take the time element out and like unspecify. Instead of a beach body workout, it's a fat loss workout. Instead of Thanksgiving nutrition tips, it's how to not cheat on your diet, whatever. So you could always take that element out of an article, but if that's a core piece of what you're writing, you have to pay attention to the calendar, right? Have you ever run into that with anything training-wise or?
I'm going to go off on a tangent here. So I think the two main articles that fitness websites run are evergreen articles, which are applicable at all times, and seasonal articles, which are just the ones that you were talking about. Now, I feel that if you're looking to get a foot in the door, seasonal articles are not the way to go. You've got to come up with an evergreen pitch that's going to be applicable at any time, right? So that takes the guesswork out of the pitch, really, when you're going with like an evergreen subject like the 12 best upper back exercises to improve your pull-ups or something like that. Something along those lines, like it is going to be applicable at all times, because some lifters are focused on performance and they want to improve their pull-ups and they want to increase their upper back size. That's not seasonal, right? That doesn't happen in summer. That happens at any time. So I think if newbie riders are going to focus on a pitch, I think they need to obviously pitch an evergreen subject before they even get into seasonal type stuff. Again, that's just the way I do it.
I would say that's probably the way it should be done. That's a great approach. The evergreen and seasonal is 100% spot on. That's I should have said, you should use the words. That's absolutely a great way to go. And you can, like you said, you can still within an evergreen article, you can get a little bit more specific, like the 12 best upper back exercises. I know one of the first articles I wrote, might have been the first article for T Nation. It was a calf workout. It's just a calf workout because like not a lot of people train calves, so maybe I bring something new to the game, and I did. Like I had a couple exercises in there. But I got that idea because I saw that Chad Waterbury, who was one of the greatest coaches like around, in my opinion.
Amen.
His first article was a grip training article, a forearm workout essentially. His first article for T Nation. So I saw that and I'm like, I could do something along those lines. Lower arms, lower legs, same thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of stole his idea. Like, if that's an okay first step for him, this is an okay first step for me, and it worked out all right.
You pitched that to T Nation?
A calf workout, yeah. I did a calf workout because I knew that Waterbury got his start with a grip training workout, which isn't like a phenomenal topic in the sense that it's like all over the place. It's relatively focused. It's something relatively unusual and unique. And I figured I could bring something new to the table for calves, like training the tibialis, which I'm a big fan of toe raises. So yeah, so that kind of evergreen article, which is something that will be, you can throw it out at any time and the editor can say, yeah, we can find a spot for that. But you do also, because you've read the site and you're familiar with the site, you need to know they didn't just publish a calf article last month because they don't want to be redundant. So if you've kept tabs on a website that you want to appear on, and you've seen they've done a bench press workout and upper chest focus and how to train chest without hurting your shoulders, and those have all come out in the last 6 weeks, it's not a great idea to say, hey, you want me to write about dips? Like, it's a lot of chest focus. Throw something different. Be like, hey, here's how you get your first pull-up. So know how the site will want to mix up the content. And that will also be a great idea more likely to get you that first in.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Chris. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of a pitch. Now, if you're going to pitch for the first time, do you send the editor your entire article, or do you send the editor just the outline of the article? What's a good approach?
I would rather get just an outline that, hey, appreciate the site, I've been reading a while, all the formal introductory stuff. Yeah. I have this idea for a 1,700 word article on upper back exercises. And is that something that you at workouts.com would be interested in publishing?
So just the outline.
Yeah, just the outline. You can throw in your credentials, of course. I'm a CSCS, and I've had a blog for the last 2 years, and here's the address. You can see some of my work, whatever. So you have that credibility, because they're going to want to see, before they say yes or no, they're going to want to check to see if you can write, which is why it's good to have a blog or have some long form social content.
Oh, yeah, guest posts.
Guest posts are great. Guest posts where another trainer who has a blog has said, hey, why don't you pop over and write a blog post for my site, and I'll post it. That's still credibility. That's still showing that you can string together some thoughts and words clearly. I've had a lot of issues where I've checked for evidence that somebody can write, and I can't find anything. So I'm reluctant, and usually I decline. Yep, I'm reluctant to work with them because it's just too much of a gamble. Unless I've seen what that person can do, I'm not always inclined to say, yes, I'll try. I have tried. Got a lot of people that have had no real experience writing. But in terms of pitching and getting that first impression and saying, will you pay me to write? That's a big ask if you have no evidence that you bring stuff to the table. So.
Now, my second question is, editors are busy, right? They really haven't got a lot of time to read emails, check emails, read pitches, because usually they're overwhelmed with all the other stuff on the website. So basically my second question is, how do you make a pitch stand out? Do you keep it short? Do you long? What are the real, besides just the outline that you would include and your credentials, what's something that you would say that makes a pitch stand out, that would grab an editor's attention?
Really, really professionalism stands out to me, which is so odd, but it's relatively rare in my experience. Just don't make any typos in your email. There's a first impression for you. My personal opinion, and I know I'm in the minority on this, in the fitness world, I think we're a little too formal. If I haven't met you yet, I'm not going to call you Shane. I'll call you Coach McLean. Call you Mr. McLean. That's me being an old fogey, but it's a sign of respect in my book. We're not on a first name basis yet. If you email me and I reply and I say, nice talking to you, Chris, we're on a first name basis now. That's how I approach it. If I use my first name to you.
That's a really good point. I like that. I think I've screwed it up several times.
Exactly. Well, no, because I know that other coaches, it's not a thing. It's not a big deal.
But I think that's a great point.
It matters to me. So there.
Yeah.
So be professional. Be, hey, Mr. Colucci. I wouldn't mind that. Just be professional. We're not pals yet. We can become pals real quick, but we're not palsy yet. So treat the email as a professional business email. Keep your message short and concise, because nobody wants to read a long email. Introduction, who are you? What can you do for me? Look forward to hearing from you. Here's why, use your credentials, things like that. But just, there's no secret. Just write a good, well-crafted, business-focused email. That's why also I prefer an email to a random social media message, unless we're already connected on social, which is fine.
Mine was just a fluke. So
sometimes flukes fail.
Don't do it that way.
No, email is preferred, because that's my mindset is that's how you handle business.
Yeah. And
it might not be the landscape now, but as far as I'm concerned, social media is not the primary avenue for business discussions.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're exactly right. That's a really good point. Again, don't do it the way I did it.
Yeah, you might end up like Shane. No. So yeah, so I think that's basically it. So know where you're writing, know what you want to say, research the site, have a good article idea in mind. When you propose it via email, lay out whatever details you can, but certainly don't send the article with your proposal, because that's all kind of awkward, and I'm pretty sure there's some legal issues that with non whatchamacallit, non-solicited work or whatever the hell. So don't send your email in your pitch, just send the idea.
The outline of the idea.
Yeah, just the outline. So getting back to guest posts, which are a great resource and a great way to get started, or can be a great way to get started. A guest post is, like I said, basically you connecting with another coach who has a blog, a current blog, and doing a guest post. There's no secret in the name, right? So how did you get started with that? How did you get connected with Gentle Core, and how did that turn out as your first entry?
That's a great question, because if it wasn't for Tony, I wouldn't be paid to write. So I followed Tony and his work for a long time. I mean, I was on his email list. I was reading his blog regularly. All the stuff he did at Cresley, I was a fan of. I just read everything I could get my hands on. Same with Eric Cresley. I read everything I could get my hands on with him. Same with Dan John. Same with all of these guys. So first of all, I started off as just a fan. I was a fan of their work. And then if something caught my eye, I would just reach out and say, hey, this is great. I really, really got a lot out of this. Or I'd leave a comment on the bottom of their blog, right? Saying, this is great. This is awesome. Thank you very much. This helps me a lot. And I was sincere. I wasn't being an asshole. I was just a fan. So I started off as that. So I basically supported the coach before I even asked, hey, could I write an article for your website? So doing that, particularly with Tony was more inclined just to say, well, sure, you can write an article for me. And trust me, my first articles on Tony's website were not very good. But he published them anyway. And I think me just being a fan and being a supporter of their work opened the door for that. But it took time. It wasn't just like, oh, left one comment and followed the social media for a month and say, hey, can I write for your website? It wasn't like that. It was more like a slow burn, particularly with Tony. And it's the same with Dan John. Dan John has a weekly email called Wandering Weights. And I mean, I've been on that. He's got like 500 of those now, which is just incredible. He's been doing that for, God, almost 10 years. And I was just a huge fan of his, and I would read his Wandering Weights email and go, oh man, I really like this article. That was great. And he'd go, oh, thank you. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then I got to pitching him some of the articles on my blog, and he would put them on his website, and they would just blow up. They get huge hits. But again, it's just because I started off as a fan, supported their work, sent them the email, no strings attached. Basically, it was like forming a relationship. It was like a slow burn. It's sort of like, you go out on the first date, then get married, which is a good analogy, right? That just doesn't happen, right? And it doesn't happen with writing as well. I think forming a relationship with other writers, particularly when it comes to guest posts, is so important.
Definitely. And I think a big word that you said that everyone needs to hear is sincere. You were sincere in your comments. You weren't spammy. You weren't, algorithm says I have to comment on 5 articles. That comes across, I think. Yeah. So you need to reciprocate. You need to follow and be a fan, like you're saying, and be genuine. And people will pick up on that. Just like people will pick up if you're being like sleazy. Like most people, most trainers especially, have a good detector for like, this person's just bogus. Yeah. So you kind of need to, because there's so many, unfortunately, there's so many scammy influencers out there and people giving the business a bad name, that it just helps to be professional and be a genuine person, be authentic, be real. Real quick, here's an aside. A lot of times on social media, I don't know what people's names are. they'll be, their handle on social will be at fitbod73, and there's no first name, no last name. I have no idea who this person is. So they're not a real person to me. Like, they're posting selfies.
Yeah, you don't know.
Nowadays, thanks AI. So on your social handle, on your social profiles, have your first and last name, because you're a professional. If you don't have your first and last name on your business social media accounts, to me, you're not a professional. You're not presenting yourself professionally. I get wanting to be private.
It's the little things, right? But we just talk. Really, what we're talking about is the little things that count.
It is. It definitely does, and it all adds up. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It makes you genuine, or it makes you seem inauthentic. That's all. So networking and just connecting with other peers and other colleagues and other trainers and people who have written when you want to write, that just makes sense. And that's just, like you said, it's building that relationship that can then branch out, because you form a relationship with somebody, they might know somebody, that person's looking for somebody like you, and it's a nice match. It happens when it happens. Like I said, it's not overnight, so it takes some time.
And like, as I said, because I've formed those relationships with no strings attached, that I've got several writing jobs just because I've been recommended to a website. They say, hey, Shane's great, you should check him out, and boom, right?
Yeah, you have somebody make that introduction for you.
Because I've just formed decent relationships with the coaches, and I've never met them in person. It's all been online, but that, they know I'm sincere and there's no bullshit about me. And they go, hey, Shane's great. Basically, that's how I got the Garage Gym Reviews job, because David O'Tay just said, hey, Shane's great, you should try him. And I was like, sweet. And that just came out of nowhere. So it means a lot.
It does. It builds, and it's from being a good person. You're a good person, good things come to you eventually.
Yeah.
So
they do. But like, yeah, it's a slow burn.
That's the thing. You can't expect it to be quickly. Whether it's building that relationship or getting an introduction and having your pitch received, it takes some time, and it's gradual. It's not a quick turnaround.
It really is. And like you said, with the little things in your pitches and the little things about developing relationships and getting some guest posts and getting your name out there, it all counts for a lot. It just all adds up, right?
It does. It's definitely all cumulative. All these little things matter. If you send me an email versus a DM, that matters. If you call me by my first name in your introductory email, that matters. Yeah. If you do all these little things, if you misspell anything in your email, it matters. So all these little things add up. Yeah. So basically,
you think we covered it?
I think we're good. I think we covered a lot. I think we covered know where you want to end up, research the place, send your proposal and pitch to the right person or through the right avenues. If you're not pitching a place directly, network. Don't pitch other trainers. You don't ask directly, can I appear on your blog? Just be a good person. Be a friendly person.
Be a fan.
Be a fan. That would certainly help. Be an authentic fan. And if you can't find any trainers that you're a fan of, you're an arrogant prick. There are a lot of great trainers out there, and it's an abundance mindset. Okay, yeah. You need that. There's plenty of opportunity for everyone. So just because Shane has been published however many hundreds and hundreds of times, I could still get an article published, and good for him. Doesn't affect me at all. It's good for him, and that's it. So be a fan of your peers when they deserve it, which a lot of them do.
Excellent point.
So,
excellent point.
I think we're good. I think you got some takeaways. Hey, you guys, if you want to practice sending pitches, you can send them to therightspotters@gmail.com. We're not going to publish your articles, but we can give you feedback on your pitches.
We can definitely do that.
Certainly, we can give some feedback.
About sending pitches. Why don't you send one to us?
Try it. See how it goes. Get a feel for it. Okay. See if you can
learn by doing, right?
You definitely learn by doing. You learn what not to do by doing.
Yes.
So send it out. therightspotters@gmail.com. Find us on social @therightspotters. And good luck. We'll catch you guys later.
Speak to you again next week. Great job.